Hey y'all, welcome to an Every Life is a Story event here on As Long as You're Breathing, Keep Living. I'm just thrilled today because, well, y'all know this lady, you know her because she did the premiere event and she got to turn the tables and interview me. And that was a treat. Handled me gently. So thank you very much, y'all. Sheri Moise. Hey, Sheri.
Hey, Mesa.
So good to have you, and I'm so glad that you're doing this because I know you could have went so many directions and told us so much about yourself, but I think the direction that you're going to go in and the way you're going to share your story is going to be very helpful and meaningful for the group of people that we're always addressing. So, without further ado, I'm just going to turn it loose to you and let's hear the Sheri Moise story, y'all. For those of you who are watching live, please put your questions in the chat. If we ignore you, it's because you have not given StreamYard permission for us to see. So go into your settings and do that. And if you are viewing via recording later, just tag us and we will answer your questions. And with that out of the way, I'm turning it over to Sheri Moise. Hello, Sheri Moise. Let's hear your story.
Hello, Mesa. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me here, Mesa, and giving me this opportunity to share my story. This is such a powerful platform that, you offer to others. And I know for myself, so many times it's someone else's story that has really inspired me or given me an insight to take me another direction or confirm something for me. So I know the power of story, and I hope to do justice today and, give someone that little bit of inspiration or encouragement or whatever it is they happen to need.
Well, I know your story, and I know it's going to do that. But thank you for saying that. I appreciate you acknowledging what the platform does because that is exactly the intent of it. So I can't wait for you to tell us all about your life and your experience.
Yeah. So, our life is obviously made up of so many different parts and pieces. And to sometimes like hone in on the thing that you want to share that's really going to, be appropriate for right now. When Meisha and I were talking about, what part of my story do I really feel like is important for right now that I wanted to share? Um, it's around, for me, growing up, I felt pretty invisible. I felt not really seen. And there were a lot of reasons for that. And, I always ask them what's true about that. I was certainly seen and heard and all of those things. But what I didn't really feel was that I could just be myself, that I would be accepted for who I was. And not that I was anything maybe even out of the ordinary, but or what was maybe considered ordinary, but it was really just being able to express how I felt or being able to own who I wanted to be in the world or own my gifts. And I really, from a very early age, unfortunately, learned that, people didn't see me, or that they didn't want, that, being too emotional wasn't a good thing, or sharing too much about yourself wasn't a good thing. It was kind of that old be seen and not heard, kind of a thing.
All too
And so,
well.
so
All too well.
I stuffed a lot of my emotions, and I really disconnected from myself, and I just wanted to kind of fit in, like I was the good girl, got the good grades, if I was getting into any trouble, it was safe trouble with safe people. Like I really created this bubble around myself. To just be doing the right things. So, and at the time I thought, it was kind of that good girl syndrome, but now I look back and it was really because I didn't want to be, I felt invisible. Like I wasn't going to be seen anyway. And then if what if somebody really saw me? So I was going to fly under the radar. I was going to not be seen. Because it hurt too much to like actually the times I did try to show up and, really look for some support or help. And if it didn't come, then it was too disappointing. And so I just kind of, stepped back. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, yeah. And I think a lot of people out there can relate to that, even in childhood. And we don't give children the credit for feeling that way. I mean, we think of children as, okay, they're kids. And so we don't realize, and then unfortunately, as we become adults, far too many of us don't remember ourselves having those experiences, but we don't realize just how in tune kids are with who they are, right here, because they're aligned. We are aligned when we're small with who we are. And so, unfortunately, adults tend to kind of push that aside, and it's like, well, you're just a kid, and
right.
They don't take that alignment seriously. And that's the time when, we are aligned and pliable and all of that. And so to be made to feel that way, that is something that attaches itself to us, and then we have to grow up and get rid of it. Wendy Bradford is with us, and Wendy wants to know, how do you know how to ask for help?
That's a beautiful question. And, it's something that I didn't know how to do for a really long time. I was super fortunate that once I was getting into my career, I had some really amazing mentors, one in particular who's still a friend of mine today, who really believed in me and my girlfriend at the time. We were like 23, first outside sales job, little girls in a big corporate world. And, so that was like, I really felt seen. I really felt like what was possible for me that was outside of my comfort zone.
Right.
So, being able to, he was the first person that I felt like was really listening to me and and I could go to and ask for help. And he also would sit me down and and tell me. So I didn't, Wendy, learn the how to, and I'm too, my part of my design is, I just want everything to be good. Let's just not make waves. Let's keep the peace. So, keep it simple. And so, I was the fixer. Let's just make sure everybody's okay. But not worrying about me, not how do I get what I need to be fixed. So unfortunately for me, it took some, getting my legs pulled out from under me, with my own physical health at one point when I was trying to do all the things to finally really say, I need some help. I need different tools, different ways of being in order to really be able to navigate life with some more ease.
Well, you hit on like two biggies there. One, because I have so many people who follow me that have health issues. You said had to have, I think you said my legs knocked out from under me, and then you mentioned your health. And I know that yours was not necessarily a chronic pain condition or an invisible illness condition, but your immune system may have been compromised from this strain, and it may have led to or contributed to what did happen to you. So, so those in that community that follows me, they can definitely relate to what you're saying. That's one part of what you said. So maybe
can we stay with that? Can we stay? Yeah, can we stay with that for a second?
Stay with that. Yes.
Yeah. So I did end up having, my first kind of legs out from under me was adrenal fatigue. And that was like from holding everything in and trying to take care of everything for so long. And that really did physically and mentally take my knees out from under me. Like I was out for the count. Like the doctor was like, you can't even do yoga. Like you just can walk. Like that's it. But, just as little as 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And fortunately, it was caught really early and it was treatable. But what came from that was under the surface illness or syndrome. I don't even know what it was, some lymphedema. And that was kind of this invisible, for me, it was relatively invisible. It is not for everyone. My swelling wasn't such that, other people could see it, but they could certainly see that I was wearing a sleeve. And so, this needing to be able to look at life differently, needing to be able to acknowledge my emotions, the way I looked at it, your lymphatic system is like the garbage system, right? It's clearing everything out. So what did I need to clear away to really get to the truth of who I am and what I'm about, and owning and honoring myself? It was a really beautiful gift. It's the gift that keeps on giving. When my left arm starts to fuss at me, I know there's something I need to look at. So
right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think what you said there too, when you said, what did I need to clear out? Because sometimes it's not what we need to add in, it is what we need to clear out. So because sometimes we have to clear out before we can embrace what it is that we have to embrace. So if you want to pick up with your story and go on.
Yeah, sure. So, so I stayed that path of, kind of learning a little bit to ask for help, learning. I found a lane that I happen to be really good at in terms of sales and marketing in the corporate world. And I was one of very few women back then who traveled for business and calling on major retailers. And I happened to be really good at it, but it was really soul sucking. But the good girl, you've made it. I went to college, first one in my family to do that. And and I was doing all the things, and, but there was a lot of ways that I was not honoring myself. There were a lot of ways that I allowed myself to be treated in that corporate world that weren't healthy for me. And that again, we're repeating that pattern of I'm not enough. So therefore it's okay for people to talk to me that way. It's okay for the owner of my company to, in a meeting, say, oh, we thought about firing you, and then just keep going on. It was just, things that it took a lot back then for me to get to my limit of owning my value. And that was, I did it in relationships. I did it, in my personal life and my professional life. It was about 6 or 7 years ago when both in my personal and professional life, I started to, something shifted in me, and I was like, that's enough. No more. I can't keep putting myself second and not honoring my feelings and what I need for everyone else.
I have a question, and I don't know. I really don't know, because I know in the world we live in, it should not be this way now. But I also know who we primarily seem to be talking to all the time. Do you think obviously the things that happened to us when we were young are contributing, but do you think also part of this is we're women? And so owning our value and stepping up, because you did say I was one of the few women that did this, and you keep talking about being the good girl. And I had somebody actually say to me a while back, well, you're just wanting to be bad. And they're not talking about being bad in that sense, and I'm like, because I don't think of myself as a good girl, bad girl, but you keep saying that. And I know you don't mean it in that sense either. I know what you're saying. So do you think that some of it is, are we talking the patriarchal mindset stuff there too? Is that what we're saying here?
Yeah. What I say about our generation I'm 51, I'll be 52. I said, I was the first woman in my family to graduate from college. I was one of very few women in outside sales working in a management position, managing millions of dollars, and there was no one to look to. There was no one at that time ahead of me, really, that I could emulate. And so I think that when you're blazing a trail of a sorts, it becomes there, who do you look to? And so then there was this push pull of, we were told, you can have it all. You can have a family, you can have a career, you can have all the things, but the reality was that was not an easy road to hoe, and the system was not set up for that. And it wasn't, I worked for some very well-known major companies that, sexual harassment training didn't exist until about 5 or 7 years into my career. And the things I was told when I first started working, like, don't walk in front of that district manager in a skirt. Like, there was just this whole vibe. And I grew up, like, my dad was a mechanic, and I grew up in the shop, and I could talk shop with boys all day long. And so at the time, I didn't, I could roll with the punches. And so I got along. I didn't want to upset the apple cart until the president of one of the companies I worked for, said some demeaning things in an elevator in front of my colleagues, my peers. That was a line in the sand for me. And even then I was told, like, by my boss, who's a very good friend and mentor of mine, like, are you sure you want to file this complaint? What? Who the hell says that? Yes, I'm sure that was not okay. But that was, so yeah, I think there was this, I still, apparently, because it comes through this way, like this, as a woman, as a female, as however you identify, as folks these days, that I was in a position that was hoeing a new road, that was traversing a new path, and there wasn't anybody to look to, really. And some of the females that were in leadership positions didn't do things in a way that I felt were integrous. So, it just was hard. It was a challenge to find my way.
So you had, as a young person, not feeling like it was safe to show up, and then you got into the work world and you didn't feel like it was safe to show up because as a young person you were taught it wasn't, and then on top of that, and I hate to even bring that up because I would like to think that doesn't exist, but at least in our histories, as part of our stories, whether it's, I'd like to think that now it's not as relevant, but as part of our stories that we've had to overcome, it is definitely relevant that there was that whole, you can't show up as who you are because and there's I used to do that. There's a right way to be a woman. You can be a successful one, but there's a right way. And it did involve being a good girl, knowing your place, and yeah.
Yeah. Well, I remember joking, and I don't even think I knew, back at the time, I was literally selling, like, I was working for a paper company, selling toilet paper, paper towels, like, try to make toilet paper interesting to a group of 40, primarily, actually all back then, male salesmen, and I used to laugh. I was like, I'm wearing a skirt and a cute top, and you know what, if they buy from me because of the way I look, that's fine. They were going to buy from me anyway. Like, that was my,
I know.
But I did have that awareness that there was something about dressing, to accentuate my femininity at the time. I instead of just being able to show up and be me and which I was to a certain degree, but not fully until much later in my career, when I knew that I was very good at what I did, and there were not very many people that did what I did, nor where I lived, etc. So I felt job security. So I felt a whole lot more license to show up and be me. And if you're going to get rid of me, fine. And they never did, but but it took me 20 years to get to a place where I felt that level of confidence that I could get another job easily, that I was willing to not put up with whatever BS was being thrown around and just speak my truth.
And you realize what we're talking about here is reclaiming sovereignty of self.
Yes.
That's what we're talking about, is you did not feel from childhood on, you've had to overcome reclaiming sovereignty of self. And that is something that is it's rampant. It's something that we are all overcoming. So this is a story for everyone that we can all relate to, whether I know the direction you're going to go with it, whether somebody ends up going with their uniqueness in the same way that, well, I know some of the direction, whatever our uniqueness ends up being, claiming sovereignty of self is something that we all have in common.
Yes.
We all have that in common. And so our individuality is what it is. But claiming sovereignty of self is something that we've all been robbed of in some way. And so we all share that. And so that's something that we've just had we've had thumbs ups coming up. And so yeah, because we've been robbed of that, of claiming the sovereignty of self.
Well, it has been like, fit in, be quiet, don't make waves, all these things that we were taught and told. Thankfully, we can see with the younger generations, like, I am not surprised in any way, shape, or form that the youth today don't want to be labeled as male or female or anything, that they would prefer to be called use a more generic pronoun that isn't identifying. Well, why? Because they look at their parents and their grandparents and they see what that identification did to them, and they don't want that truth. And so we all are learning a new way of showing up. But for those of us that, and even still today, but then that brings up this whole other sovereignty of self. What is your identity? How do you identify yourself? Right. What can you claim? Which for me, bottom line, it's claiming your value and claiming your uniqueness. And that has been a journey. And I think it's still a journey. Like, it is still a journey for me every day to remind myself to step into my uniqueness, to own it, to say, this is how I see the world from my point of view, and my point of view has value, and so does yours, and so does yours, and so does yours. Everybody's does.
I think before we can claim our uniqueness, we have to accept our value. We have to claim our value, and therein is the problem. We don't get to our uniqueness for so long because it takes us so long to stand up and say, I matter. I'm worth something. And even when we're saying it, do we mean it? Or we mean it, but can we hold our ground? Because we come to the point where we believe it and we even feel it, but then we get challenged on it. I was challenged yesterday by a robocall. A robocall. The guy challenged me on what I do and stuff. And before it was over, he backed down. But I had to defend my worth, my value and before it was over, he's like, you keep doing what you're doing, and I'm like, I don't need you to validate me, but I had to do that. And I can tell you that 5 years ago, I would have probably backed down, and after the call would have probably been feeling small, so that alone takes too many years. So I do understand. So many people think that's what's going on with our young people and these non-labels and stuff is they're equating it to things that I don't necessarily think it belongs to. I think it belongs to exactly what you're saying. They don't want the wasted years of being seen for who they are. They want to get past all of that. And so I think you hit on something really important there.
Yeah. It's this journey, like you said, Meisha, like every day of reminding and owning and claiming your value, that you are valuable, that you are, I think one of the most common, issues that people face is I'm not enough,
Mhm.
and that can come from many different ways and experiences that we have. And it is part of the human experience, right? It's a part of your ego, and
Yeah.
like really, and you know and all of those layers of who we are. And I think it's an important journey. I think if we didn't have that question of am I enough, and we couldn't answer that for ourselves, we wouldn't have that depth of knowledge of our value. And I
Yeah.
think just that question, asking that question, or what I like to say to people is, what's true about that? When you
You do like to say that.
I do. It's a Sheri thing. Sure, there's a lot of Sheri. There's a number of Sheri statements, and that's definitely one of them. Like when you say to me, that you aren't enough, or no one does this, or what have you. Like I always like to ask what's true about that. Like even if I say like I wasn't seen as a child, what's true about that? That's not true. But I didn't see what people were seeing in me, and I didn't feel comfortable. There were things that occurred in my life, and experiences that I had, that put me on this path of thinking that it was easier to just not be seen and to blend in and to fit in and not make waves than it was to really shine. That if I shine, something bad could happen. I don't even know as that little girl 100%. Well, I do know some of where it comes from, but so I think there's power in that journey of our own development, and we each do it in a different way. It would be beautiful if we all showed up in the world, and just were like, oh, here I am, I'm shining. But we chose this human body to experience, and all of that comes along with that, I believe, is seeing both sides of the coin, seeing all aspects of that ego self.
So you did say something there, though. You said you got to the point where you decided, okay, it's okay to shine. How did you do that? Because some people don't get to that point. So how did you get there? How did you discover, okay, I do have value and it's okay to shine? Because some people, we all eventually pretty much decide, most people, some don't, unfortunately, but most people do decide, I do have value. But then deciding, what, not only do I have value, but by golly, I can show up in the world and shine. That takes something else. So, and then that's when we have what it takes to step into our uniqueness. So how did you get that behind you to say, okay, I can step up now and shine?
I'm not sure it's 100. I know it's not 100% behind me. And I would never, I mean, like, because I believe we get to growth edges, and then it shows up in a slightly different way, and we have to address it. But the pivotal point when I said enough to, to not being, really honored and treated in a way that I was more mad at myself, but it was in my relationship with my husband.
Okay.
And when, you know, his needs were usurping mine, how he was showing up in the relationship wasn't healthy for either one of us. And I was allowing myself to be affected by it. And I finally said, enough. You can't talk to me that way. You can't treat me that way. Like, I'm done. And I have a lot of Aries in my chart. I have just a lot of fire in my chart. So when I tend to be when I'm done, I can be done. Luckily, we are still together. That's a longer story for another time. But we separated for a year, and I had to own my value and my place in all of that, and why, I allowed myself to be treated that way. Why I put myself even in that position, and he had to do his work to see. And from there forward, it's been really a, kind of step-by-step process. I always knew that I wanted to leave corporate. I always knew that I wanted to do something more fulfilling. And so, committing to that journey, and knowing that I had a couple years before our youngest was going to be 18 and I could make that transition, that I really started to do the work,
Everything you just said circled back to my other question when we went on the health tangent, which everything you just said went right back to it. I was just waiting for, okay, how do I get back to it? And I didn't even have to. You took us there. Because in that you said, and we were told we could have it all. And that's what you're just saying, because you're saying his needs usurped, and I wanted to leave corporate, but it was going to be a couple years before. And so you circled right back to it, because what does have it all mean? Have it all meant, yeah, we can have it all as long as we made everybody's world work. And so everybody else's world had to work, and us make ours work too, the other world we wanted. So have it all meant something entirely different, because have it all meant we had to be superwoman. We had to be superhuman. We had to be 3, 4, 5, 6 people. And we accepted that. That. So that was the other point that I wanted to get to in what you said earlier. So how did you overcome that?
It was by shifting the way I viewed my relationship, by shifting the expectations that our kids had of me, by shifting the expectations, of everyone in my immediate world of what I was willing to do and not willing to do. I used to take, when we were in as my younger son calls it, the difficult time, I used to take selfish Sundays. Why the heck did I need to take selfish Sundays? Why can't a girl just take a damn break? But just what you're saying, I felt that it was selfish to take time away from my family. And the kids, where does she go? Where does she go on Sundays? What is she doing? They didn't get it. Now they get it. But in that moment, I was in survival mode. It was do what you need to do to get through. So it was and has been a process of uncovering and starting to view myself, my relationships, what is available to me in a different way, so that I could step into my value and know that I can have a career that I love, and make money at it, that I can be I can be, a supportive mother, wife, friend, and not lose myself in the process, that I know when you know your value, you know your boundaries. And so what I had to learn is what my boundaries were.
And I think where we've come to with it is we've also come to understand that everybody doesn't have to lose their identity, not just the female, but the male doesn't either. And that's where we've come to with the balance of the divine feminine, divine masculine. We have finally come to understand that we don't have to overcompensate. Either of us don't have to overcompensate. And that's kind of where we were at. It was like we had this push-pull thing going that, okay, by golly, I'm not giving up who I am, to have it all. And so for a while, it seemed like we were saying, so the guys had to overcompensate. And that's not what we're saying either. That's not it at all. But that did seem to be the dynamic that was being set up for a bit. But I don't think that was our intent, but that was. But that's not what we wanted all either. I think we are very balanced in that.
Yeah.
But what you said was, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You said managing expectations. I think that's how you got to where you could step into your uniqueness. Once you got everyone's expectations being managed, then it's like, well, now that I've got people trained to know that, okay, I get to manage your expectations of me. Now maybe I can step out and just be uniquely me in every way that I want to be. I can show up in the world as Sheri, whatever that is. And I think whatever that is for each one of us, I don't think we can do that until we manage other people's expectations.
Yeah, and one of the simple ways that I share with people of how to do that is it's the power of no. You know, it's
oh oh, oh no
oh no.
oh no.
But it's knowing and owning your no, like, and having a process for, you know, especially if you're a fixer or people pleaser, or, you know, you want everything to be okay, like really evaluating, like, if I say yes to this, what do I have to not do? Or what will get, you know, not done as well as it could be done? Or what will happen to my energy? Or do I really have time? Like, when the more we add on our plate, something gives, right? And so managing those expectations, like, this is a great way to play with learning how to do this. It's like, sure, Mesha, I can do that for you, but, you know, if I do that, I can't do this. Or I would love to do that for you, but I have these 5 other things on my plate, so I won't be able to do that till next week. If you can wait, I'm happy to do that.
Yes.
So learning to, and that's the first step in managing people's expectations, I think.
Yes. Wendy says that no is powerful. No is powerful. But, you know, we can say powerful things and be in our power. As a matter of fact, when we are in our power, we should, being in our power means being calm and in control, not being unhinged.
Yeah.
And that was something that it took me a while to learn, because my family's way of being in their power was being unhinged. And so that took me a bit to learn. I don't know about everybody else out there, but my family, they were passive, passive, passive. And by golly, we're going to be in our power now. So we are freaking unhinged. and so, you know, but no, being in our power is actually a calm, centered place. And so, but yes, no is powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So learning to manage everyone else's expectations, what it did was it gave everybody else room to step into their authentic self. Like, the gift was that my husband was able to, you know, show up more authentically and be him and not rely on me for things that he really didn't need me for. The same thing with my kids and my friends. Like, there's.
Oh, you froze. All right, y'all. She'll go out and come back in, because she knows the drill. So we will have Sheri back. I know we will shortly. I will go ahead and let her know to come back in.
Internet connection. Oh, there we are. Let me do something.
She knows the drill. She'll come back in.
Here, I'm going to switch to the wired. There we go.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's all right.
So, anyways, yeah, it was, yeah, and I love that, Wendy, you know, allowing others to say no as well, and have their own boundaries, and honoring that too. Super powerful.
Because I think that when it comes to managing expectations, I think the key to that is really not having any expectation other than each person step up and be authentic. And when we do that, when we can trust the other person to step up and be authentic, and that it's safe to do so, then we don't have to have expectations. We've defined this is who I am, and then there's just communication and agreement on, okay, this will work, this won't work, you know. And so so I think then I think we kind of do away with that whole what do you expect from me thing, or what are the expectations here. And I think we just make it, we're two adults here who are communicating, is what I think we turn it into, which is what I think it's really supposed to be. And so I've kind of done a whole about face on this expectation thing. I think that's the wrong question. You know, I think it's, I think what we've done then is we're putting off on people, a false question when we say, what do you expect of me? Because when we say that, well, it doesn't really matter what I'm expecting of you. What do you have to give? What are you willing to step up and do? I mean, so you tell me, who are you? What is you bring? And then this is what I bring, and then let's figure it out. So that's So and then you don't have to have the dreaded, oh no. I mean, oh no, we know. So
yes.
Yeah. So tell us about the unique Sheri. I mean, who is the unique Sheri that is in the world? Because you are very much in the world and help a lot of people. So Sheri, who was afraid to show up as a child and felt like she couldn't. And then Sheri, who was in corporate and is like, I really can't be myself here, and overcame that too. And then Sheri, who, home is kind of have got to manage this too. So you've done all of that, little girl, corporate, home. And now you've come through those things and managed your health. And so here you are now, and you are uniquely Sheri. Of course, it's a journey. I know that. You're not through it. It's a journey. So who is uniquely Sheri?
It's, I am someone that is, my combination of unique gifts, I believe are meant to help others to be able to share their gifts in the world. And that my ability to see, like, one of the things that it took me until really actually very recently to truly claim, which a very good friend of mine was barking at me about for a decade or more, is that I have the gift of sight, that I have those, that ability to, be intuitive, be psychic, if you will. Like, I can see things for people that they can't always see for themselves. And it's not something I do in a weird way, or I'm just looking at what's going on with Misha, but it's super valuable for, people who are the people I work with typically, who are trying to get their business off the ground, that are spiritual entrepreneurs, that we get when we're getting in our own way, to have someone else be able to see your value or see your next step, or help to at least ask a question that may open that door. And so that is one of my gifts. My gift of, I'm from all my years in corporate. Like, I used to joke that, I could figure out the best path from A to Z. Like, we don't have to go through all those steps. Part of that is that gift of sight. Like, but systems and structures, like keeping things simple, is something I'm very good at. Like, what's the shortest path to least resistance? And then really seeing people for who they are and what their uniqueness is, and helping them to see that for themselves. The tools that I have and the things that I've learned of how to, move through and work with those, our journey, our healing journey that each of us is on this time around, so that we can show up and share our gifts with the world in whatever way we're meant to. And so, those are just some of, and then, I believe I'm compassionate and I'm caring, and I really, but I have, my boundaries. So it's an important ebb and flow. So
you're all of those things. I mean, you've hit the nail on the head, and you certainly do see people for who they are, and you certainly do help people see themselves for who they are. But in a very systematic, loving, non-pushy way. I mean, you have definitely a grace about how you do it. There's no doubt about it, because that somebody who can't see who they are, the last thing they need is for somebody to come in like an elephant in a china shop. Don't know who here might be an elephant in the china shop. Can't imagine who. The last thing that a person who is having trouble seeing who they are needs is for you to come in like an elephant in the china shop and say, this is who you are. You don't do that at all. You do it with such ease and grace. You have such a gift for that. And you certainly do not push your gift of sight on anyone. Absolutely not. And you practice it with integrity, which is something I preach and preach and preach, is that, as a matter of fact, the more I realize that I can feel, the more integrity I use with it, the more shields I keep up, because I don't want to know unless it's okay to know. I don't want to feel unless it's okay to feel. So And a lot of that, it's something I would have done naturally anyway, I think, but being allowed to be so close to you just made it just like, oh wow, and this is how you do that, because if you have this is what you do, because I've watched you, and so you definitely are exactly who you described. So I know you do this in the business world, I know, and with spiritual entrepreneurs, but so how would someone approach you to how do you help people? Oh, we have somebody else showing up. I don't know. Hello, glad to have you. Glad to have you. If you have any more questions, do post them, please. But um, how would someone approach you to benefit from Uniquely Sheri? How would somebody approach you? What does working with you look like?
Working with me looks like, typically the people who end up showing up in my world have really big heart, and they really want to be of service, and they've got a gift of their own, or multiple gifts. Oftentimes they're multi-passionate, but they're feeling stuck, and they are struggling to really either get things moving or know how to start, because it's like there's all the things, right? So what I do is help people to simplify and take them through a step-by-step process to really uncover their own uniqueness, so they can figure out the best way that they would market themselves, the best way that they would set up their offers, the best way that, that, because we're each uniquely wired. And that's, it's a combination of a lot of things. It's, our DNA, it's our human design, it's our astrology, but it's also how we process information, all that we've been talking about today, how we manage and navigate our emotional well-being, what information comes from here, and then how we navigate it here. So really helping people to uncover what I call your heart-mind design, so that you can apply that to your life and your business in a way that then is really feeling in alignment. And when we're in alignment, when we're in integrity, when we're excited, because then things start to flow. So it's I was doing it very intuitively for a long time with people, but I'm doing it in a very, kind of practical and tactical way now, to ensure that, you've got the support you need of the practical things in business, but also the inner world that we're always getting an opportunity to work with. So,
well, and I think here is the irony of all of this, is that the approach you've taken to telling us your story is about the difficulty in stepping into your uniqueness, and the whole approach that you take with everyone is that there is no cookie cutter, there is no one size fits all. The only way you can be successful is to step into your uniqueness. So I think that is the irony of all of this, is
right?
that is exactly what you have learned, is that the way to do it is to step into your uniqueness. So maybe you want to elaborate on that some.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was really, as I really stepped into entrepreneurship full time, I was mentoring people and working with people with anxiety and stress and things like that for many years, and doing it in a very safe, structured way, using someone else's tools and not trusting myself. And then, and I was trying on all these different hats and trying on everybody's formula, and things just were not flowing and they weren't working. And so what I've really come to realize, the more I got aligned and working with people who saw me for me and could call out my uniqueness, was that when we are working from our own unique design, the only way to really build a business that's sustainable and nourishing, because the other Sheriism is, is that the key to a thriving business is a nourished and happy you. And how are you nourished and happy? When you're living your design, like when you are in your unique design. That's how our relationships flourish. That's how our business flourishes, etc. And so, yeah, so it is as I've stepped into more and owned my uniqueness, that has allowed things to flow more. So I really believe in building a business and a life, for that matter, that's uniquely you. And so that's what I'm really passionate about helping others do, because I know that it moves the meter. It makes the road, it's still work, it's still effort and energy, but it's joyful effort and energy. We can have more fun when we're doing it from our unique design.
Right, absolutely. And I think that matters so much, because that's what makes the difference and allows us to do it, and do it with grace and ease, and to do it without draining ourselves, and to be able to kind of have it all after all.
Yeah.
And keep our health and all of those things, and manage expectations is whenever we are actually happy, and we're happy when we're aligned. So I think you kind of have brought it all full circle for us, which is what you do. So I don't know why I'm sitting here surprised. I'm not really surprised. I'm not really surprised at all.
But to answer your question more directly, if you're curious or you want to know more or get to know me better, there's a couple ways you can do that. And you can drop into my website, heartmind.biz, and you can opt in there. And I actually have a great tool that is, whether you're in business or not, learning to take inspired action and having an empowered to-do list is really powerful. So you can opt in for that and get a sense of who I am there. You can join Meisha and I over in the Heart Powered Coaches and Healers Collective. I show up every week with a little bit of, a little training. We're working together to support each other and keep you inspired and on track. So those are two great ways to reach out to me. Message me here on Facebook. I'm happy to answer questions. I had a plethora of resources. If you're stuck and you need some movement forward, I may or may not be the person. We're both uniquely designed. But I will always send you on your way with some sort of resource that I think might meet you where you're at.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thanks, Wendy. You're the best.
Yes, you are. I'm going to have to hire her to handle that over there for me.
Right?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Wendy. I appreciate that very much. Has been wonderful, because that's really, I got so much support there early on, because that's kind of where I stumbled onto, was there. And the Facebook group is very supportive and safe and comfortable. And so kind of elaborate, when is that and how does that work? Maybe tell people about that, because that is a great way to get a feel for you, for somebody who's like, well, I might want to do this, but that's a great place to get a feel for you.
Yeah, so typically Wednesdays at noon Pacific, I go live. And what we've been doing is, I love astrology. So we're kind of taking a spin through the astrological houses. So we have a theme each month that we explore, and we look at it from both the inner and outer world. So, because we can't separate those pieces in business. So each week we've got a theme that we're playing with and exploring. So I'm, dropping my ideas and asking others in the group. We do spotlight members most every week, and then you can get on my email list and get more of my entertainment that way too.
Yes, and your emails are good too. My batteries are going dead, so if I reach out and take these out, you'll know that's what happens. I'm like, what are they saying in my ears? No, then I realize what it is. So, okay. But the group is really a great place. It's a very safe place. It's a very nurturing place. Everybody is it's a place where people are interactive, and then when we all meet and do like little group sessions, that's always great too. So those are wonderful. And now you have a summit coming up too. When is the next summit?
So one of the ways I'm designed is I love to co-create and collaborate. Meisha is one of my crazy collaborative partners too. And so on average, like 3 times a year, I do a really small virtual summit. And it's only like 5 to 7 speakers and really curated to focus on a particular topic. And so you can really get to know these people, and we keep it simple and intimate. So I'm not overwhelmed. These 20-person summits, like I don't know how people do it. But so the next one will be first week of April, and we're going to be looking at really just this whole idea of like, how do you get yourself out there in the world, and how do you do it in a way that feels authentic and feels aligned, where you don't feel spammy and, so really, how do you market yourself? If you are someone who, is in service to others or provides products to others or what have you, this event will give you some really phenomenal. I'm meeting and talking to speakers now, and it's really going to be an exciting, really powerful, informative event. And if you're on my list or in the group, or if you, get me your information, I'll make sure that you get the details about that when that goes live in a few weeks.
And the way we market ourselves has changed. And so this is very timely. Imagine that you knew we needed this.
Right.
I wonder how you saw that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how that.
I don't know how that came through, but yeah.
Yeah, but it has. I mean, it has changed how we market ourselves. So this is truly timely, and it is a great thing to be a part of. So I know that when you do work with people, you do it in a variety of ways. I know that you do it. You have programs that you have set up that you do one-on-one. I know that you do the summits. Do you have other things out there for people as well?
Yeah, well, there's if you are like beginning your if you could really see yourself in where I was 7 years ago, and you're in need of some support with just navigating the emotions of life, I have a really powerful, simple 5-week program, and it comes from what what got me to this place, what had me really stepping into, working with other people and helping them to build that muscle of resilience, because really I couldn't be where I am if I hadn't had that, really worked on that muscle of resilience. And so I have this just really simple, powerful 5-week, 5-minute a day program to help you really build up that muscle of resilience. So it's just a self-study thing. So if you're interested in information about that, let me know. I'm in the process of rebuilding the landing page for that. So I'd have to just get it to you directly, which is easy enough. So there's that. And then I will be launching a group program in May. So if you're on my list and if you're involved in, with me in any way, shape, or form, you can certainly connect. You'll see that come through as that comes forward. And if you are somebody that wants to be on one of my summits, you think, or you want to co-create and collaborate, that is what I love to do. It gets me inspired and excited. And so would love to, if you're feeling curious, reach out to me. Let's have a conversation.
Awesome. Well, we have like 2 minutes left. So is there anything that we've missed that you want to say in closing, or?
I just want to give each of you permission to just appreciate and own whatever your journey has been up until now. And if you don't feel like you're far enough along, or you're not feeling like where you're supposed to be, I want to tell you you're perfect where you are, and that every day we have an opportunity to get to know ourselves even better and to really understand our unique value and how we're uniquely designed and how we are best meant to show up in the world. And so just be curious. Like if you get nothing else from out of this, like one of the things that helped me to just get to where I am, and the thing I tell my clients all the time till they're annoyed with me, is just get curious, and get support. Meisha has a ton of resources. I have a ton of resources. Wherever you're at, there's someone to meet you and support you. It can just be a friend. It could be a mentor. It could be someone you pay, someone not. But when you can be seen for who you are and be honored for where you are in your journey, then that's going to help you take those next steps into stepping into your value.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And you pretty much kind of said what I want to say to everyone as we close. Thank you, Sheri, for being with us. And as long as you're breathing, you all, I want you all to just be curious. Keep living. Thank you all for joining us. See you all next time. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.